Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning to those of you on the West Coast. It's Renee here, just giving you a little intro to the next session from our Feed Your Mind webinar series. Today, we've got Cindy and Michelle from the Mission Data and Knowledge team who are going to share some updates and pretty cool information with you today. As we've done in the past for some of these webinars, if you do want to ask questions, we'd ask that you just use the question feature on the GoToWebinar menu, and you can type in your question. We've just switched over to that screen there, so if you're not familiar with what that looks like, there's a screenshot there. Just type in your question at the end, and I will read that question aloud for our presenters to answer. If you're having any technical issues or anything like that, feel free to use the question panel throughout, and I'll try to help you as best I can, but we'll address all the main questions at the end. In a couple days, I'm going to send out a survey and a link to the recording as well. So if you've attended today and can take a few minutes to fill out the survey, that really helps us in terms of planning for future webinars. So thank you in advance for that. And I'm going to pass over to Cindy, who's going to tell you a little bit about a new way to engage during the webinar today, and then they will move on to the presentation. Thanks, everyone, for joining. Over to Cindy.
Thank you, Renee, and good morning and good afternoon to everyone. We are going to try out something a little bit more engaging, is to use some real-time polling as we go through the webinar. So for those who are using your mobile phone, please take it out and take a few minutes. If you want to participate, and we highly encourage you to, is to type DKHTEAM to the number 37607. So I'm going to give everyone a few minutes to do that. And you can look at the screen. We have provided a screenshot of what it will look like on your phone. So when you type that in, you should get a message saying you have joined DKH team session. When you're done, reply, leave. So just leave that. Do not reply, leave yet, because we will need you to participate later on in the webinar.
Okay.
For those who are on the computer or at your desk and would prefer to do the voting online, you can also just type in poll, poll.com/DKHTEAM, and then it should prompt you to the website where there will be options for you to submit when we reach that part of our webinar. Great. So I think, first of all, we just wanted to spend a few minutes to kind of dispel some myths. I think many of you are very familiar that there are a lot of interest in data and numbers. And here's just some couple of examples. With the last election, I think there was a lot of data flowing around in all the different news. I think many of you probably have logged onto CBC or National Post or whatever news medium of your choice and click on the interactive election mapping and track what's happening in real time. Other examples of why we think our current world is quite interested in data are, next month, in a month or two, we are going to have to file our income tax. And I think we are all very busy learning and understanding what are the different raises over the year and what are differences in the province. For the sports fans, definitely we are, very, very on top of our scores and, spend many hours reading of very numeric scores and stats as we follow the season. Very exciting. And then I think most recently, many of us also have a very fancy gadget gun that track our vitals, such as a Fitbit that track a number of walking, or, for some more fancy one, it may even tell you your ECG or heart rate. So I would say, without knowing, data is everywhere. We're using it without even thinking about it. So I think today what we would like to do is really just, as I say, an introduction to our team. As many of you know, this is a new team. We are learning, and we really want to open up this opportunity to learn from you. So this is just a quick initial introduction. So many of you guys are wondering who we are, who are in this team, and to be very honest, the team is less than 3 months old. We still have not finished recruiting, so here you are. You can find our organization chart in the HR Hub on Rita site as well. And really what we're really trying to do is we want to place mission knowledge at your fingertip. We want to help you translate complex data into easy to understand content. And lastly, we want to arm you with your necessary resources or tools that can help you do your work more efficiently, quicker, and easier. And I think one important part I really want to point out that it is not all just about facts and truth. We are not just about policing whether your facts is right or wrong. We're not here to give you a fact checker tickets either. There's no fine involved, but really it's about how we can use the information we have and the evidence we have to help you better engage with your donor, better engage with our researcher and clinicians, and how can we better articulate our needs and convince the public of why what we do is important. I hope together we can be great collaborators to let the people in Canada know why the organization exists and what we're here for, and most importantly, to drive bigger impact. And many of you probably have seen this. These are exact wording from Yves when he first initially introduced our team and our team structures in the national mission team. And I think the key take-home message here is we're not here to find you the perfect data. We are here just as a single credible source and team to help you figure out what are the right piece of information and data that we can stand behind to drive the course and what we're doing. So with that, I'm going to hand this over to Michelle to kind of give some examples of what a day-to-day life look like.
All righty. Thank you, Cindy. It is a pleasure to be speaking to you all today. And you might be wondering, like, why do we need a centralized place? We've managed so far without one. And I thought I'd highlight a few examples that have come up since I've started that really underscore the need for the work that we're doing. So here's one. I got an email saying, we peddle this sentence around. Can you confirm that this is still right? So I just got the sentence to be, fair. These are just like the things as they show up in our documents. I didn't really have any context or background of where it came from, so I had to do a fair bit of digging. Once I figured out where the statement originally came from, I was able to kind of update it with newer numbers and a bit more specificity. So if you look down in the response, you'll see I added in a time frame. I adjusted the data to make sure we're very clear about the number that we are talking about. I also added in a couple of references. So if anyone asks, where did you pull this number out of? We actually have it right there. And if someone asks me in the future, hey, Michelle, is this sentence still true? I know exactly where I got the numbers, and I can go double check to see if maybe they've changed in the last couple of fiscal years. So that's one example. You also might want to know something that doesn't have a really specific, concrete answer, in which case we are here to help you find the answer that will best meet your needs. So one example is as part of the PADS, or Public Access Defibrillation Advocacy Project, we want to talk about the importance of it and the impact that it could have. So in order to do that, we need to be able to speak to the number of cardiac arrests in Canada annually. And it seems like a straightforward number. Like, can we not just Google it and, pop up with some number that is, concrete and clear and good? But the reality is it's not the easiest thing in the world to do. So you can ask us for a number and we will supply one to you. It might not be the perfect number, but you need to take a few things into consideration, like what kind of cardiac arrest are we talking about? In hospital, out of hospital? Are we talking about responded to? Are we talking about treated? What are we talking about? And who needs to know? Is it somebody who has a really deep understanding of cardiac arrest and wants a very specific definition? Or are we just talking about the lay public? What kind of assumptions are you comfortable making? So if we know how many cardiac arrests there are annually in one province, are we okay to extrapolate that to the rest of the country, or do we need to do some really in-depth statistical modeling? So these are the kinds of things that we will ask you, and we can come up with a number that really meets your needs. Oh, I forgot I had some animation built in there. Okay. And really quickly, we also know that data do change over time, particularly when we're adjusting our definitions or introducing new patient groups. So a big recent example would be our heart and stroke report that just came out a couple of weeks ago, where we speak about the number of people who die as a result of heart condition, stroke, or vascular cognitive impairment. So we used to say one person every 7 minutes, and now we say one person every 5 minutes. And it's important to have a location where the reason for this is documented, and we can speak to it clearly, and we can provide you with an explanation so that when you go out and you need to explain to someone in public, you have that information that you need. So that talks a little bit about what we can, or what we are working on and what we can do. I want to talk a little bit about a survey that we did. It was pre-Michelle, so back in July of last year, but we hosted a workshop that really tried to get a sense of how people are using data, how much people are using data, and what their understanding is of the data that we have in-house. For the people that couldn't attend the workshop, there was actually a follow-up survey as well. So I just want to highlight these. This is a very high-level summary of the results, but what I want to highlight is we asked people if their work requires data for mission. So 94% said yes, so that's exciting. That means that yes, we have to have a centralized repository. But on the other side, we also said only 9% said they know how different types of data are defined, and 88% said they don't think we're accessing or using data consistently, which is a bit of an issue. We also asked whether people agree with the statement that in order to support our operations or evidence-driven operations at Heart and Stroke, we need to know about the quality, relevancy, and source of the data, and it should be reviewed, documented, and tracked. So, almost 80% of the people who responded to the survey agreed that that is the case, that does need to happen. However, only 30% agree that we are producing knowledge of high quality and high integrity in all of our products, and 50% feel that we're doing a satisfactory job at data-related activities. And I don't know about you, but whenever I got the satisfactory on my report card, I was never entirely thrilled with that. So I think we can do a better job. So that was what this survey told us. So we identified 3 major gaps using this survey. So one was a bit of a lack of consistency in how we're accessing and using data, so that's an issue. Another one is we need really good evidence that we can carefully evaluate to back up our work, but we need a better way to get at that information. Right now we're relying on an email system. Somebody needs something, so they email an inbox, and it kind of goes into this dark email void in space, and we need a better way, to track requests. And for the first little leg of our team's existence, we've really been focusing on the first 2 gaps. The third one will be addressed kind of later on in F19, but what we're really talking about today are these first 2. So again, if we're talking about a lack of consistency, the example I just gave about the Heart and Stroke report is a good one. So on our public-facing website, we might say 1 in 7 people, 1 person dies every 7 minutes of our heart condition, stroke, and vascular cognitive impairment, whereas in the report we're saying 1 in every 5 minutes. So this is a discrepancy, and we need to deal with that. And there could be other discrepancies that are coming up, in the terms of the number of cardiac arrests we're reporting or how many people are dying of heart failure. There could be discrepancies, and part of what we want to do is to be more consistent and address those. So here we go. Here is our first poll of the day. So I want you guys to get your phones or get to your computer where you typed in pollev.com/DKH team. And you just need to enter, if you've got your phone, enter A, B, or C. And then you can just click on the response if you're on your computer. And let us know, have you been dealing with a discrepancy in the data that you use? So I'll just give you guys, a few seconds to kind of respond. All right. I was hoping I wouldn't see like so many people who had a discrepancy.
We have a 6% and never.
Oh, never. That's
Did you
good.
find those people?
Yeah.
And this is a real chance as more people vote and submit their entries or inputs, the graph will change. That's why you're seeing the changes.
Yeah.
It's not because we're meddling the result at our end profits.
Yes, that's the other thing we don't do is fudge data, right?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so I'll just give another couple of seconds. But yeah, it looks like people do and have in the past dealt with discrepancy in our data. So that's really like a big thing that we want to deal with and want to manage and, you know, want to be able to reduce. So it looks like we're settling at about 70% of people have dealt with some kind of a discrepancy. So thank you, everyone. That was our first question. Keep your phones handy because there are others. So how can we help you? Well, the proposed solutions that we have to the gaps that we identified are really kind of, you know, we've come up with a couple of solutions. They're kind of organic in nature in that, you know, these are not carved in stone. These are not final solutions. We plan on adjusting them, and they're subject to change based on feedback and evaluation. So, you know, yep, okay. Gap 1, lack of consistency. So our solution that we came up with is creating a centralized online repository for our data and make it easy to access and understand. So what does that mean? You may have come across the Rita mission site in its previous iteration. So we did have a place, but what we wanted to do in creating our centralized location is really come up with a slightly friendlier display so that people can get a better idea of what our knowledge products are. We want a lot of transparency on what we're working on. We wanted something that was easy to interact with and help you find what you need. And that had a lot of well-vetted sound information that we can stand behind. And this, in turn, will result in less frustrated heart and strokers and heart and stroke employees and more happy ones. Because, you know, when you're surfing around trying to find what you need and you can't find it, it is frustrating. We all know that. So we're going to take a tour. I'm going to ask everyone to get on this fun-looking little bus that's down here in the corner. Look how much fun these people are having. It looks awesome. And I'm just going to exit the presentation for a second so I can take you to our, So I can take you to our new revamped mission data site. So exciting. So here you can see down the middle, you're basically just going to pick what you need, whether you need some data or information, definitions. We'll eventually populate all of our policies, procedures. The first thing I'm going to do, or what I'm going to do right now, is walk you through a couple of case studies, quote unquote, and these are in the deck, but I'll just speak to them right now. So let's say, for instance, I have a donor, and he wants to know about heart failure, but he's only interested in donating to support women's health-related initiatives. So he wants to find any data that can speak, or I would like to find data that can speak to the impact of heart failure on women's health. And this can help us convince the donor that our work is important. So if you email this question to me, what I'm going to tell you is you don't even need to wait for my answer. You can just go right to our Rita mission data site. So what you would do is you kind of need some data around heart failure. You're going to click on data. And then it's going to take you to our page where we host all of our fact sheets, all of our reports, any other information that you might find helpful that has our most recent statistics and numbers, very well vetted. It's gone through our MCA councils. These are really good stats, and we stand behind everything that is in these fact sheets. So here what you can do is click on heart failure, for instance, and it will take you to both our heart failure fact sheet. It will take you to our mortality fact sheet as well, because obviously if you need information on, mortality related to heart failure, you can find it in there. And here is an example of our fact sheet. Deaths in Canada caused by heart failure is listed right there, and we can see that more women than men are dying of heart failure or died of heart failure in 2016. So that's the information there at your fingertips. Also if you can click on women's heart and brain health, and that will give you more information as well. So you might want to provide them information on the impact of heart failure on women's health, and maybe you want to talk about other disorders as well, like the relationship to stroke and whatnot. All of that information is here. Okay. Good. And the next example I will walk you through is, let's say someone comes to me and they ask, someone on our Community of Survivors platform asked for a very simple definition of stroke. Can you provide a one-liner explanation? So again, you don't need to wait for us. If you go to the landing page of our mission data site, you can go to definitions, click on that. And we have a super fancy, awesome glossary page. So here you can see it's alphabetized. This is just the beginning. We plan to beef up what's available here, but we really got kind of our main definitions that we get the most requests for here. So you would go over to stroke under the S section, and here you'll have 3 different definitions that come up. We have a one-liner definition that would probably serve your purposes here, a very broad public definition, and then a very scientific definition that kind of breaks down the different kinds of strokes and speaks in a bit more detail.
I'm just gonna interrupt with a question that just came in because it's relevant to what we're looking at right now. And the question is from Pamela, who wants to know if they're able to send the fact sheets to external stakeholders, or are they just for internal use, and you would pull the information and share it in a separate document?
It would most likely be the latter. The fact sheets are currently being developed for internal use, only for you to extract relevant information for your targeted audience. We are also working with communications and health information team for some more external facing material.
Yep, that's right. Thanks.
That's a great question.
That is
Keep them coming, please.
Yeah, that is a really good question. Okay, we do have a third example, but I'm just going to skip back to the presentation in the interest of time. And I'm going to bring us right to our next poll. Yay! So I'd like to get a sense of what your impressions are of our new site. So is your automatic reaction thumbs up, or is it like thumbs down? Or do you want to spend a bit more time there? So again, get out your phones, get online, and I'll give you a few seconds to answer.
I just want to stress that we wouldn't know who is submitting what answers, so this is kept anonymous. So please feel comfortable to give us your candid response, because as I say, we can only provide the right tools if we know what you need.
I'm just going to interrupt again because there was another question also from Nova Scotia from Christine Baker, and she wants to know if there are provincial specific stats. Is there an area where they can access stuff specific to their province?
That is coming soon. When we first initially did some internal consultation with various provincial representatives, that did come up a lot. And so we are working towards developing some interactive tools where you'll be able to drill down to the provincial level. And in addition to that, we're also working with a couple of other external agencies to obtain some potential provincial data as well. So they'll be coming within the next couple of months.
Yeah, and just a little spoiler alert. So we'll be speaking to this a bit later, but ideally we're going to be moving towards more kind of interactive platforms on the Rita mission site, and some of that data will probably be like the first to kind of be highlighted in our interactive tool. So provincial level data.
So what eventually you will also see is it will be a mixture of hybrid of static materials and also interactive materials, because we are well aware that from our work with various teams, there are certain audience that would prefer static materials, so you can extract those and use it in your presentation, etc.
Exactly. Okay. So I'm just going to quickly say thank you to everyone who answered this poll. Looks like we've got a good initial reaction to our site, and I understand we all need to spend a bit more time. Okay, so the second part of what I want to introduce you to today. So like I said, we were going to address two gaps today. So one would be needing really good evidence that we can stand behind, but trying to find a way to access it or get at it or request it as easily as possible. So what we've decided to do is to offer an easy-to-use request service and tool that will help us better manage our data requests. So I know this may come as a shock to some, and we all may shed a little bit of a tear, but we are saying farewell to the mission content inbox. You will have, about 6 more weeks with her, but as of April 1st, 2019, she will be dearly departed, and we will be relying on our new RapidRequest system. We will have this kind of ready to start using as of February 27th, and I'd like to, I'm not sure if David M. is on the phone, but I'd like to do a quick shout out to him and a big thank you for helping us set this up. So we're calling it our RapidRequest tool. It relies on the Jira platform. What this is intended to do is to replace the black hole of sending an email, and it will help you to follow progress on your requests. Which is important because when you send an email, it kind of disappears and you don't know if anybody's looked at it. You might not hear from anyone on it for 3 or 4 days, and you don't know if it just got lost, so should you send another one? With this platform, once you submit a request, you're able to track progress in it, and I'll show you how to do that shortly. We'll be automatically triaging things, so oftentimes we'll get something in the mission content inbox and we don't know who it's supposed to go to when we, kind of circle around to each other, and now we have an automatic way of triaging things according to topic. You have the opportunity to tell us when you need something by. It allows us to figure out what kinds of things we're getting requests for, so that will help us make sure we're filling in any obvious gaps by using our centralized repository on the Rita mission data site. And it helps us prioritize requests so that, the more urgent ones can kind of get dealt with first. And also it will help us both, you and our team, redirect requests where appropriate. So sometimes we kind of get things in the mission content inbox that we're not entirely certain should be directed our way, and this will allow us to kind of manage that landscape a bit faster. So again, I'm going to ask you to get back on the bus. We're going on another tour. I'm just going to exit the presentation and go here. So we will be providing links to this tool. And the other thing I should mention as well, you will be getting some support. It's not like we're just going to open the floodgates and you have to figure out how to use it yourself. So we're putting together a procedural guide that will walk you through how to submit a request. I'm also going to be hosting 2 sessions the week of, I believe, March 4th. And you'll be able to either attend those in person or join by webinar, and I'll just take a quick 15, 20, 30 minutes to walk you through a few examples of how to submit a request and what buttons to use. So this is the landing page, and again, I'm going to walk you through a couple of case studies. So the first thing I want to draw your attention to is this bar right here in the middle that says search. We're working with David who is helping us come up with kind of a glossary of search terms. So we've just kind of got a few testers in place right now, but this will be a lot more thorough. So you'll be able to just, type in, for instance, if you want to know something about heart failure, you can type in heart failure and it will provide a link to that site. So right now, in my first case study, let's say I get you need a donor, or you have a donor who's looking for a speaker who can share his lived experiences at a local fundraising event. So again, you don't need to email anyone. We now have this tool. What you can do is type in speaker here. You will get this button. So I would just click on this. let's say you need someone who's going to come and speak to you about stroke. You could click on stroke. I'm going to name it something, so let's name it speaker. I'll quickly type in, I'm going to fix my typos because I have OCD. I would like a speaker. Let's say you want to you have like a picture of the event or some kind of file. I'm going to say when I need it for, so I need it for tomorrow. The intended use, let's actually, it will be donor information. Just kind of, you can pick as many as you like. If you pick other, you can type in other here, and your target audience is going to be general public. And I'm going to create that. So I just click on create. So this creates, you can see this nice little display. You yourself, after submitting this, will get an email, and it will provide a link in the email that you can follow and track your request. So you'll be able to see this change to in progress once someone on the DKH team has started to address it. You can resolve the issue. We will walk you through all of these things in both the procedural guide and in the training. What I'm also going to do is just run through one more example. So I've only shown you the top half of the screen. Surprise! There's a whole list of buttons down here. So let's say you're not sure that you want to type anything. You just want to figure out from one of the options below. Let's say you found a discrepancy between our public-facing websites and our internal-facing website. So that could be, for instance, the one person every 5 minutes dies from heart disease, stroke, or vascular cognitive impairment, and then public-facing, we have one in every 7 minutes. And you want to tell someone, because that's important for us to know, you would click on, I found a discrepancy, and it will take you to here. Now, important to note is, we have this, what is this request for? There may not be a perfect fit for the request. You might have to kind of ballpark it. So it might be about heart disease in general, so you can pick coronary artery and vascular disease, and I promise you it will get triaged to the right person. I won't walk through the whole filling in a request again, but that's just to give you an idea of something else or another area. We're going to be adding a couple of other buttons as well, including requests for publications, patient engagement opportunities. And like I said at the beginning, like this isn't carved in stone, and as we get feedback and as we kind of look and reflect on any evaluation or on the evaluations that we do, we will adjust these according to, everyone's needs, to make sure everyone's needs are being met and that we can respond to requests in an appropriate way. I'm going to skip over the third case study and just go back to our presentation. So again, in a perfect world, we will have a really complete glossary tied to our search bar so that if you need something, you can just type it into the search bar and get a link to wherever it is you need to go. So on that note, I'm going to skip through these and I will take you to our third and final poll. Yay! So if you grab your computer and your phone again, think about that self-serve function. Do you think it will be helpful, or your options are no, I'd rather email someone, yes, I'd rather find my information on my own, or not sure, I'll have to try it out. So again, I'll give you a few seconds just to respond.
And just to note, I have seen a number of questions coming in about the tool as well, but I'll just save them all for the end so we're not cutting into too much of the presentation time, but I have seen your questions, so don't worry, you won't be forgotten.
All right, so a little bit more skepticism in this one. We'll have to try it out, but really that's what we're asking. We're like, try it out when you have a request that you need to take care of. starting February 27th. Go through the tool. If you do come up with like a lot of difficulty or questions, you can always just get in touch with me. And yeah, okay, so moving on, I just want to talk a little bit about plans that we have upcoming and some future learning opportunities that we're thinking of. What you saw from our Rita mission data page, some of the fact sheets, they're very text-based and really meant for you guys to kind of go in and grab, you know, sentences or paragraphs or references that will help you in your work. Ideally, what we're moving towards are more visually friendly knowledge products. So we're partnering with creative services to kind of come up with more infographic type displays. We're still refining and working on a number of fact sheets. And again, you know, if we're getting a whole bunch of requests on a specific topic that we don't have something for yet, that will tell us that we need to develop a fact sheet on it. So please do let us know if you're not seeing something that you need. If you'll recall from the Heart and Stroke report that came out a couple of weeks ago, we released our first interactive data hub. It was really exciting. A lot of work went into that, a lot of collaboration. So we were very pleased with it. And what we'd like to do is have an internal-facing interactive data hub. And this will be built on, you know, some of the CIHI data that we have. We're working with Statistics Canada for some of their data. And any other information, like, you know, some of the polling data we're working on, and we will make this available to you via the Interactive Data Hub. Another thing I want to talk about is we're going to be forming a couple of working groups, one of them being our data governance working group. So this, you know, we'll be talking a little bit, this will be a group aimed at helping us implement our data strategy, and I'll supply a lot more information on that in the weeks to come. And a data visualization working group as well to help us kind of set up the interactive data hub and make sure we're, again, you know, building something that people will use and will be helpful. We're going to be doing a lot of consultation and evaluation. So you'll see on our Rita Mission site in the weeks to come, we're going to be asking people to provide their feedback and their input on how navigable the site is, can they find information they need, is the RapidRequest system working for you, because we want to make sure we're doing a good job, and we will adapt and amend accordingly. So again, it's a very kind of organic process that's ongoing, and it's adaptive and adjustable. Another thing I want to highlight, we're going to be doing a bit of a learning series. We understand that, you know, the numbers and data and all of this can be very new. It can be pretty overwhelming. And the specificity with which we define some of our conditions can be kind of confusing. So what we would like to do is to host a few learning sessions. So these are 4 topics that we're thinking of addressing. We're open to any suggestions. We've got a few others kind of on the back burner as well. But ideally, these sessions will be aimed at just, you know, helping you get a bit more familiar with, you know, what we have, what we can offer, and what we do. And if you want to stay updated in what we're doing, we do have a newsletter that comes out every, I think, 3 or 4 weeks on Retabloid. I never know how to say that correctly, but you can see we provide a link, and it says update from the DKH team, and it kind of has everything that we are working on at the time, any upcoming new information, any changes to the site or information that we have, everything will be posted there. So I want to leave a good chunk of time for questions because I'm getting the sense that there are quite a few, and we are very happy to answer them. I did just want to finish off with a recap of, you know, kind of what we want to do. So we want to place mission knowledge at your fingertips. The idea of the centralized hub and the RapidRequest system is to make your lives easier, to make it easier to get at the information. We're not trying to put up barriers or make it more complicated. The idea is have a one-stop shop where you can go and find what you need. And we're trying to make, you know, the kind of complex data and all of these numbers that get thrown at you, we're trying to translate them in a way that's easy to understand and to give you the knowledge you need so that you can speak to the importance and the urgency of the work we're doing here. So you can speak to donors and they can understand, why their role is important. Cindy, anything you want to add?
I think last but not least, I just want to reinforce the notion that F19 and F20 is really a build years. As I mentioned, the team is really not even 3 months old. They're still baby. So on that note, now I feel like a grandma. But honestly, your feedback welcome. We've been consulting and reaching out to various representatives in your team. Some of you have been bugged by us more than once because you were very helpful in the first time and we came back for more. But honestly, it's candid feedback, raise the questions. We can only help solve it if we are aware of what the barriers and challenges are at your end so that we can best tailor this for your needs. We're here for you. And then I think lastly, I just want to take the time to acknowledge all the other team that's been helping us to make this happen. Definitely, this is not a one-team job. Really appreciate all the team, resuscitation team, health information team, marketing and comms, digital design, and I would say they were the one who came up with the name of a data hub. So really just thinking about end user experience and helping us with all that as well. And last but not least is business solution, IT, and digital technology team, because we wouldn't be able to deliver this tool to all of you if it wasn't because of them helping us behind the scenes. So I just wanted to do a big shout out to all the cross-functional team help on this. And with that, I think we should open up for some questions or comments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so a number of the questions came in while you were going through the RapidRequest tool, so some of them are very specific to that. Okay. But Naseem has asked, when would we need to complete an evidence table template?
So in a perfect world, and Cindy, feel free to correct me because as you say, I am a baby, but as you go, basically, as you are, writing your document and preparing it, I would create your evidence table as you go. So if you want us to review it, I would create it as you go. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so the evidence table is a template that we made, and it's really because we got a lot of material that are quite lengthy. I'm talking about, the 20 plus pages with 130 to 200 reference that we really had to vet through and then review within 48 hours type of time frame. And if you're filling an evidence table, it just makes it so much easier for both you and the team. And then it will help us to track what kind of paper we have or reference source material we have. On the side note of that, we're also building a reference library for everyone. So this is also coming soon as well, a bit of a spoiler alert. So, it is part of the F20 plan.
Yep.
And we will be providing additional policies and procedures to help provide instruction of when, each of you have to use, we recommend to use what. So there will be a procedure to help everyone through when we will need the evidence table and walk you through that.
Another question, this one from Brigitte. She would like to know what the turnaround time is for requesting a speaker. So how far ahead would they have to request something like that?
So I think, as you can see, there is a wide range of requests that we handle. We do adjust according to our needs. So, the more advanced notice you can give us, we will always appreciate, but at times I understand that is not possible. So I think the important part is put a realistic deadline on when in the request, when you submit your query, and we will prioritize according to that. And I can give you an example is the data team get a lot of requests from the media that needs to be responded same day. So, the moment we see that, we'll prioritize that. So give us realistic timeline, we'll realistically match them and meet your needs.
So another question Dawn has asked, can you use, he said that it looks like an awesome tool, first of all, but can you do a request for an actual lab tour of a research project for a prospective major donor?
You can submit that and we'll triage it to the appropriate person to handle requests like that. I think what is important for us to keep in mind is by using a centralized query management system, we'll be able to pull periodic reports to evaluate what kind of requests we have, and then we can adjust accordingly. So that is the power that we will have that we currently don't have when requests are submitted individually, and sometimes we have to learn about, overlapping requests when we're in the lunchroom or in the bathroom, whereas with this, we'll be able to pull a report, and then we can look at it together and pull the right people in the organization to figure out what's the best way to handle them.
There's a question from Joanne Morrison and another one from Natalie Gearman that I'm going to sort of combine because they're similar and similar to one that was asked before. So Joanne's question was, will we be able to search for provincial facts and stats, or will we need to use RapidRequest for that? And then Natalie's linking in, do the research requests go to provincial research leads to fulfill? So 2 questions, but both around provincial piece.
So as far as the provincial data is concerned, so once we have it, and we have something that's kind of specific that we can tag, then yes, it will be searchable. And like I said, ideally you'll have an interactive way of using the data, and we would provide links and you can use that. But certainly, yeah, we will make provincial data searchable. For the second part of the question, the tool is triaged to the mission national team, I think, and then we would redirect as appropriate. I would also say we have our colleagues in mission are currently building a research database that will we be able to search. That will be able to search as well, or be able to access as well through searching on our tool.
So a question here from Christine Hood.
Hi, Christine.
She wants to know, how is the back end of the self-serve function being populated, and is there a concern about requesting a stroke presentation, for example, when the local provincial resources may not be available?
So the back end of the self-serve function is being populated based on the input we're hearing from everyone. So it gets adjusted, the workflow gets adjusted, and then we work closely with the digital technology team to implement and execute it. So I think, going back to the point that Michelle have highlighted, this is an organic process, and, we will adjust as needs. And then your second part of the question is there concern about requesting a stroke presentation when local provincial resources may not be available? I think that is exactly the point we are trying to address, is that we understand and we're aware that resources are very limited, and we're trying to centralize some of the key core material where we can repackage and recycle for multiple uses, just so that, we can do more with less resource.
If any of the questions, if you feel like your question hasn't been answered and you want to submit it in a different way or ask a follow-up question, please do, because I'll tack that on to the end as well.
Yes, please do.
We've got another question here from Dave Gibson, and this is a really great question, actually, one that I had as well, is with this being a self-serve model, how do you make sure people know when there's new material replacing old stuff? So how do you flag for them if there's a new fact sheet that's replaced one that they might have been going to in the past?
Well, there will be a few ways. So I think primarily it will be our newsletter. Again, those are available every 3 to 4 weeks on the Rita homepage. So I would keep your eye out for those and have a look, because if we change anything, it will be in there. Also on our landing page, our Rita Mission Data landing page, we have a little section for news. So if we change anything, it will go there. And I mean, if it's something super sensitive, likely we would send out a notification. Yeah.
I think I'm just going to add a follow-up. This is a question from me that I said Dave had a similar question to me. So if I'm accessing information on there, one of the fact sheets, would you recommend that I not save that to my computer and refer to it and always come back to the tool to access it?
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, and you will see that when you have a chance to actually take a look at some of the fact sheets, at the last page of the fact sheet, there is a built-in revision control table where it tracks every single revision of what we update. So, for example, Dave may go in and he wanted to learn about stroke, and he put out a stroke fact sheet. A month ago it was revision 1, and then maybe down the road it's revision 3, and you want to know what's different between revision 3 and revision 1. Go to that table, and then you may see that, revision 3, it was updated on April 1st, and there will be a comment saying the prevalence information has been added and to replace the 2010 data, for example. So you'll be able to have all full transparency of what we had worked on in the past as well as what we will work on in the future in our newsletter and in our landing page announcement section.
It's really helpful. So we've got another comment and question from Mark Collison, and the comment is just that this is awesome, great work.
Thanks,
as an evidence-based organization, this work is essential. So that's just the comment there, and I think a lot of us would agree. So the question there is the team open to receiving data or stats that they find externally and they might contradict or conflict with our own data? Is there a process to submit this type of information?
Sorry, can you repeat the...
He's basically just asking if they find data external to heart and stroke data that contradicts or conflicts with stuff that we're saying, is there an avenue to submit that information to your team?
Yeah, so
absolutely.
Yes, so you'll see I've gone back to the RapidRequest tool landing page. I'm going to scroll down. And I'm going to click on fact-checking content review. So this is where you would click and complete a form for us to basically, have a look at what you've come across, and we can evaluate and reassess, and maybe it's that we need to revisit our own materials or, revisit or update our own materials.
And I think for this particular example, I think it's a good way to kind of explain why, if you look at the form, there is actually an attachment section. It's optional. You don't have to attach all the time. But if you do want to attach something, let's say you read a report from public health organization and they say that, no, heart failure number is actually not 60,000, it's 90,000, let's say. Attach that report, and right away we know this is the reference we need to cross-check. It may be an organization that we have connection and network, and we can just essentially pick up the phone and just like, hey, Cynthia, is there something going on there? Why are you guys saying it's 90,000? Because our data is showing something else. Is there a methodology difference, or is it because you're counting people differently, or if it's other reasons?
And I think a similar question that we've gotten from the boardrooms here in Toronto is, with regards to the data validation, can you give a brief overview of how thorough that process is?
It's painfully thorough, if I can say that. So as an example, I spoke to it briefly in the presentation, but we were recently asked to really take a close look at the statement around 40,000 cardiac arrests a year. So this is something that appears in a lot of our materials. So we spent a very long time going through kind of as much evidence as we could, a lot of the research that exists. So we do a very thorough literature review. We use any data that we have in-house. We consult with any of our external stakeholders who have a good sense and who know what research to point us to. So it can be extensive, depending on what it is. It might be something that's pretty easy to fact check. Like if you want to know about hospitalizations for any of our conditions, we have that information at our fingertips. It's pretty quick, and it's very, it's about as objective as one can get. If it's something that requires a bit more extrapolation or, validation of different sources, then it takes a bit longer.
But I think, on that note, I just want to stress that in the query form, there is an ask of when do you need things by, or deliverable by, and really a solution is going to be tailored to the target audience, which determine what the risk is involved when we provide certain information, as well as how much time we get to work on the request. So I can't stress how important it is that, to give us a realistic timeline so that we can really work that through. And, when we have all the requests that is needed, the send date, that will become very challenging.
We've got another question from Sarah Reed, who wants to know, historically there was a mission fact sheet on children and youth. Will updated information on children and youth be made available?
That's a great question, and I think as we going through this in the next couple of months, what we will work on with the data working group is really to figure out what other topic is missing. So like feedback like this is very helpful and keep them coming, and now we know that fact sheets on children and youth will be something that's very helpful to your work. Thank you.
I think this tool is pretty exciting for everybody, and I guess with the tool itself, like in terms of accessing it, do you need to create a separate profile, or is it linked to your Outlook and sort of Office account? And
that is a really excellent question. So the first time, so we will have links on to the tool on our Rita mission data page. The first time you click on the link, you will be you'll be asked to enter your login credentials. So it's the same Windows credentials that you use here. It's first name dot last name and then your password. Do not put first name dot last name at Heart and Stroke. Just your first name dot last name and then your current password. And it's your Windows credentials. It's all linked together.
And again, I just want to re-emphasize that this is co-developed with digital technologies team. So if there's any logistic access login issue, please feel free to contact David and or Libby or Libby's team as well.
Okay. There's another question from the boardrooms here in Toronto saying, what sort of content can we expect from the upcoming interactive data hub?
Oh, that's a spoiler alert.
Yeah.
So we want to tell them.
I don't know.
Well, to be very honest.
Yeah, so, can we say?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay.
We're a transparent team.
We're very transparent. So what we're working on right now for our first one is mortality data at the national level for each of our conditions. And after that, it will be provincial data around our mortality, provincial level mortality data around our defined conditions. So that will be the first kind of thing we're looking at. Again, we're going to, assess what kinds of requests we're getting, what do people want to know, what will people use, and go from there.
I'm also surprised no one is asking about resources in other languages.
I have a question. When and if this content will be available in French, when would that be?
Well, that's a great question, Renee. So Francine and our colleagues in the Montreal office will be reviewing this same webinar in French on March 4th. Yeah, on March 4th. So the webinar will be presented in French. Eventually, our Rita mission data site will be translated into French. So those will be available in both national languages. The tool, however, I don't think we have plans to translate that. Just, I'm not sure that's a possibility. So I'm going to hold off commenting on that. But
I think the important part is really wanting to invite everyone to help us get the English content well and in a solid state by providing feedback to us in the next 6 to 8 weeks, because the last thing we want is to keep sending different revision of things for our translation team to translate to French. So the more help we can get now upfront, I think our French translation team and linguistic service team will very much appreciate.
All right.
I think we've exhausted all the questions, but if anyone does have any follow-up questions, you can obviously contact Cindy and Michelle directly. If that's it, thank everybody for attending today. That was a really interactive and interesting session. So thank you, Cindy and Michelle, and everyone for participating.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. For those in the boardroom in Toronto, please eat all the cookies.
All right. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.